Hi, I'll be providing a talk on the Model Integrated Evidence, the MIE Industry Meeting Pilot Program for Generic Drugs for the first year review. This is my disclaimer. So in today's talk, I'll provide an overview of the Model Integrated Evidence, the MIE Industry Meeting Pilot Program, and share what we have learned through the first year of the MIE Meeting Program, and recognize the potential topics for discussion through the MIE Meeting Pilot Program, and then learn how to prepare an effective MIE Meeting request package. So in OGD, there are three major areas to apply the quantitative methods and modeling. They are mechanistic models, including the physiologically based PK, the PBPK, and the CFD models, like we had some talk yesterday and today. This can be applied to both the oral drug and non-oral drugs. And the second main area is the pharmacometrics and the quantitative clinical pharmacology, which includes the population-based model, the pharmacokinetics, and pharmacodynamics models. And the third area is the data analytics, which I put here as big data, including the machine learning toolsets, analytics for complex mixtures, and risk-based model, and etc. OGD launched the MIE Pilot Program on October 1st, 2023. So the MIE Pilot Program aims to offer the generic drug company a meeting opportunity who intends to submit an MIE approach in their ANDA. And the MIE program is open for the whole life cycle of the ANDA, including the pre-ANDA and ANDA stages. So the pilot program allows enhanced scientific communications on a broad range of quantitative methods and modeling techniques to address generic drug development issues or questions that are either out of the scope or cannot be sufficiently addressed by the existing pre-ANDA and ANDA scientific meetings. For example, you can discuss the common modeling issues across multiple products and common modeling approaches for non-complex products in the MIE program, which are not the main focus in the current pre-ANDA and ANDA scientific meetings. And the main objective of the MIE program is to provide a dedicated regulatory platform for interactions on MIE to foster early and focused interactions between industry and FDA on MIE approaches for establishing bioequivalence in generic drug development. And you may also refer to the general principle documents link in the bottom. In the MIE meeting, the following scenarios may be granted to discuss the innovative MIE-focused approaches for BE establishment that cannot be effectively addressed under the existing GDUFA scientific meetings, and to discuss the non-complex products with complex modeling approaches, and to discuss the novel data analytics tools and approaches, for example, the machine learning and artificial intelligence for BE establishment and assessment. Here I'm providing a brief overview of the MIE Pilot Program timeline. So first I'd like to note the MIE Pilot meeting is not a GDUFA meeting, so it doesn't follow GDUFA goals. However, we're following approximately the timeline that's listed here. So the MIE Pilot meeting includes 3 stages. In stage 1, the applicant submits an MIE meeting request. Within about 14 days, FDA will assess and evaluate the meeting package, and at its sole discretion, FDA will make the decision to grant or deny the meeting. If the meeting is granted, in stage 2, it may include up to 2 meetings with the applicant. So within the 30 days of the grant date, FDA may schedule and host an optional orientation meeting with the applicant where the applicant will present its MIE approach in a video conference and have a direct communication with FDA regarding the details of the MIE package. And whether, regardless if the orientation meeting is scheduled or not, the applicant will have the final meeting with FDA in 120 days to 150 days, depends on the orientation video conference meeting. And FDA will issue the preliminary response 5 days before the meeting days. And the stage 3 is the post-meeting communications. Approximately 30 days after the final meeting, FDA will send the official meeting minutes. Here I'm providing some case examples through the first-year program experience to share with you what is opportunities of this MIE meeting program. So the first case example discussed a complex regulatory issue where modeling and simulation were used to characterize PK differences between available and discontinued products, providing a scientific bridge for BE demonstration under the circumstance where neither the R&D nor the RS is accessible. So in this case, we discussed a feasible model-based bridging between the two oral dosage forms, where the applicant will be able to conduct a comparative in vivo PK study for its test product compared with an available product, although this product is not R&D. However, the model-based bridging helped to identify the PK differences between all these products and eventually provide a BE evaluation for the applicant's test product versus the R&D. The MIE meeting provided in-depth technical discussion regarding the data source and the bridging strategy and the modeling techniques. So through this MIE meeting, a feasible model-based bridging approach was established. And I'd like to note that this is a case example where the MIE meeting program allowed to discuss the modeling approaches for non-complex drug. In my second case example, the applicant submitted the MIE meeting request to discuss an alternative MIE-focused approach for BE establishment for a long-acting injectable. So this long-acting injectable, the bioequivalence study needs to be conducted in patient population to reduce the recruiting burden for patients. So the applicant submitted a mechanistic PBPK modeling approach informed by in vitro characterization data and a small-scale in vivo validation study. In this package, here are some example topics that were discussed in the meeting, including the detailed technical discussion regarding modeling methods and modeling validation strategy, and in vitro experimental methodologies for PBPK model development and validation purpose, and the approach for virtual bioequivalence analysis, for example, the selection of the sample size, the power of the study, and the variability, and risk assessment, including type 1 and type 2 error analysis. So since launch, 2 meetings were granted and completed the MIE process. The MIE pilot meeting provided a unique forum for FDA and industry scientists to gain a shared understanding on model development, model performance, and the use of modeling to address a specific issue in generic drug development. So in those meetings, FDA's participation are multidisciplinary, and it provides inputs from the ORS DQMM-led multidisciplinary review team. And the MIE meeting allows alignments in MIE strategy across FDA review team and with the applicant at early stage. And through those meetings, we found an orientation meeting was helpful to understand the proposal at early stages and enhance the mutual understanding. So the video meeting format for both the orientation meeting and the final meeting was especially beneficial as it allows direct communication with the applicant on the complex modeling questions. Here are some examples for the good candidates for the MIE meetings. I'm putting here as 3 big categories, but there could be many, many examples on each categories. So first one is you may discuss innovative MIE-focused approaches for BE establishment to address complex issues for a single product or multiple products in an MIE meeting. Some examples are listed here. For example, like yesterday, we have a talk discussed a common strategy for validating a CFD model or platform towards predicting the regional deposition for oral inhaled drug products. So this common strategy can be discussed under an MIE pilot program. And another example is an alternative study designs for long-acting injectable supported by MIE, as my case example 2 here. You can also discuss the non-complex products with complex modeling approaches in an MIE meeting. For example, in my case number 1, the model-based bridging for alternative product when the R&D and RS is discontinued. And the other example could be the BCS-based bio-waiver or the other study waivers for the oral drugs. You may also discuss the novel data analytic tools in the MIE meeting. For example, the equivalence analysis of complex particle size distribution, the new quantitative approach for API sameness assessment, and application of machine learning and artificial intelligence for bioequivalence establishment. And for more details, you may refer to the SBI 8 webinar in January 2024, where we have a dedicated webinar on the MIE pilot program. To prepare an effective MIE meeting request package, you should consider have a sufficiently developed scientific proposal where the meeting questions are relevant, critical, and clearly stated. And adequate documentation for the modeling approach can be very helpful to be more effective in the communication. For example, the purpose of the MIE approaches and how it will be used to address the question of interest and inform regulatory decision-making, and sufficient details for underlying assumptions and the model building process, and a clear model validation and verification strategy, including how you will be using the data and the future data to support, and risk analysis and assessment, and modeling files and supporting data sets. So you may submit one single request for MIE along with a complete meeting package to FDA at mie@fda.hhs.gov. And a confirmation of meeting submission recipient by FDA will be sent via email that will indicate FDA received date. Here are my challenge questions. Which are the following scenarios may be granted as an MIE pilot meeting? A, innovative MIE-focused approach for BE establishment. B, non-complex products with complex modeling approaches. C, novel data analytic tools and approaches for BE establishment and assessment. D, all of above. So the answer is D, all of above. Challenge question 2, which of the following statement is not true? A, within 14 days of the meeting package recipient date, FDA will strive to evaluate and assess the meeting package submission. FDA, at its sole discretion, will determine if an MIE meeting request will be granted or denied. B, the MIE pilot meeting is part of GDUFA meetings and will follow GDUFA meeting process and timeline. C, during the initial assessment of the MIE meeting package, FDA may determine and schedule and host an optional orientation meeting within the 30 days of the grant decision date. D, regardless if an option orientation meeting is scheduled, the applicant will participate in a final meeting via video conference with FDA. So B is not true, as the MIE meeting is not part of the GDUFA meetings. Here are some take-home messages. So the pilot program serves as a dedicated regulatory platform for industry to explore the proposed MIE approaches, obtain FDA's advice on their feasibility and advancement, and address relevant scientific and technical questions. And I'd like to note the MIE meeting program is open for the whole life cycle of the ANDA, including pre-ANDA stage and ANDA stage. And the MIE pilot program is ongoing to accept more meeting requests so that areas of improvement can be identified to support future recommendations. So we highly encourage applicants to participate and engage with the FDA early in your product development program. Here are some resources that might be helpful. The first link is to the general principle guide documents for the pilot program. And the second link is to the January 2024 SBIA workshop where we had a dedicated webinar to discuss the MIE industry meeting pilot program. And a closing thought, FDA has been openly encouraging the use of quantitative methods and modeling approaches with MIE to support the development and approval of generic drug products. So consider the MIE pilot program when requesting the meeting with FDA.